I'm excited. I genuinely like college basketball.
I knew we'd get him, folks. I absolutely knew we'd get him. And now that we're here, it feels
It's
so
the we got
sweet.
him meme.
We did.
Voice,
We
we got him.
absolutely got him. So what we're gonna do is we're going to go region by region through briefly through every game, but there's definitely some games we have highlighted that we are going to talk more about today. And unless you have any other words before we get into it, Denver, I think we just start it.
Yeah, let's go for it, man.
Perfect. We are not going to start with Gonzaga's region just for the way they scheduled it. All of the games on the right hand side of the bracket started the tournament on Friday last week. So we are going to actually start in the top right if you're ever following along with Baylor's region, the South region. And we started out and had Baylor taking care of Hartford, 1/16. Obviously, no shock there by a pretty comfortable margin, 20 something points. Nothing real to talk about there, in my opinion, other than, I guess, honestly, like, I didn't know anything about Hartford. I think they're one of the schools that this is their first ever tournament. And so
Oh,
they
wow.
did a good job of like not getting overcome by the moment, even though it's a little weird this year. But Baylor kind of went on like a big run at the end of the first half, um, and then to begin the second half, that's where they really pulled away. But good on Hartford for getting here, right? We have to give credit where credit is due.
Hey, they didn't have to play in to get wrecked, so
This is true.
good for them.
They didn't have to play in. And then the 8-9 matchup to decide who matched up with Baylor in the round of 32 was Wisconsin North Carolina in the 8-9 game. Now, I don't know about you, Denver, and I know maybe you didn't get a chance to watch these two teams much during the regular season, but I thought this was going to be a much closer game than it ended up being.
See, I didn't. I'm honest. I didn't know shit about him. I didn't even watch this game. I will say this though. My close friend here, where I live, he is a huge North Carolina fan. Huge. And he's like, "Yo, pick him, pick him." So I picked him, and then they got mollywopped by 20. And I was like, "I'm never listening to your ass again. This was a terrible pick." Like they got steamed, man. They got rolled.
They really did. Brad Davison, the guard who I swear has been at Wisconsin for about 14 seasons now. I figure he's got to be running out of eligibility eventually, right? He absolutely went off. Wisconsin's biggest problem all season. I mean, you could say this about a lot of teams, but especially a team as talented as Wisconsin is. They're good enough to beat you. They just don't make shots sometimes. But they were making literally everything against Carolina, and that's why they ran up 85 points and won by 23 to honor Michael Jordan, obviously, against his alma mater.
Yes.
They won by
Yes.
they won by 23. Moving on, we had the popular upset pick of number 12 Winthrop over number 5 Villanova. And I'm not going to lie to you, I don't know that anyone told Villanova that they were going to be upset in this game. And if they did, they just
I
didn't they did ignored it straight up.
here's let me be honest with you. I was intoxicated for this game. Like I don't even remember it happening or taking place. I don't even know where Winthrop is. So yeah, good for them, I guess. They made it. I mean, that says at least they can say that.
If it's any consolation to the people who picked the upset of Winthrop, I mean, Winthrop kept this close the whole way. It was a really entertaining basketball game. But at the end of the day, Villanova thought they were going to be, or many people thought Villanova was going to be weakened considerably by the loss of Collin Gillespie. They didn't look good down the stretch, particularly in the few games they played after he got hurt. But they played really, really well considering against Winthrop, a very good team. And I think the star of the game was Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I mean, he had 22 points, 11
What a
rebounds.
name.
He's a great name, great basketball name.
That is a great name. He should have played in like the 70s. I bet he would have been a star.
For sure. And now we move in We finally get to throw it to a different graphic other than just our two beautiful faces if you're joining us for the video product of this. The first, in terms of the way we're approaching it, the first big upset of the tournament.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I had them. I picked this game.
I'll give it to you. You got completely ass lucky, and you can't convince me otherwise, but you did pick it. And for that, I give you much credit. We had the North Texas Mean Green upsetting Purdue. I had faith in Purdue as kind of the team who was supposed to carry the water, so to speak, for the state of Indiana in a tournament that's all based in the greater Indianapolis area. I was like, Purdue's gonna ride that. They're gonna make, a typical Purdue Sweet 16 run or deeper. And no, that did not happen. That did not even come close to happening. The Mean Green really controlled this game for a lot of it.
Yeah, so my dumbass didn't have the score. I didn't write down the score for these games because I was an idiot last night.
I believe this was 78-69 in overtime.
Yes, I have that note. All three of these South games that we're about to talk about went into OT, which is very interesting.
The South region was great to watch on opening day. Absolutely great to watch. I have a highlight we're gonna play for y'all if you missed any of it. The Mean Green's star player, Javion Hamlet. This man was cooking. He was truly cooking. You see it here. 24 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists. The lefty. He's got a nice little lefty game. The floater game too. It was fun to watch. Let's peep this real quick.
As Hamlet swings it to Bell, outside for Murray. Back to Hamlet again, and he got it again. Back-to-back threes for Javion Hamlet.
Because he thinks it's a pick and roll, and then the big guy slips out of it, and Hamlet gets downhill.
Particularly when it goes to his left hand. That's a big-time move. 17-footer, it's good.
They have the size advantage. Or Edie, you can take that out of White.
Deadens it off the back of the iron. Hamlet has 16. It sure might be. Watch this move. 13 seed is 3-5 in the last 2 years. Hamlet, he was just left open.
And he made the decision in that situation.
We love Dad. We absolutely love the Dad. He was the star of this. Absolutely.
Oh, what the star of that was for me was that other announcer I never heard in my life. He had such a weird tone of voice.
It's Avery Johnson.
That's Avery Johnson. I didn't know that's what Avery Johnson sounded like.
Yeah, that's former
oh my God.
Former NBA point guard, and I know him best as the Alabama men's basketball coach for several years, Avery Johnson.
Well, that's news to me. That is real news to me. I couldn't get over it. I was kind of distracted. But yeah, Javion Hamlet. In my notes, I have him as like the key player for this game. 24 points, 12 rebounds. In one of those highlights, he passes this to Bell. Bell's also the second player I've highlighted for this game with 16 points. Nice little combo. One thing I've noticed watching and going through stats is there's not a lot of like bench play in college basketball. And if there is, they don't score at all, like ever. So to have like another like starter to come out and have 16 points is very good. I can see it. They deserve to win.
The teams with exceptional bench play really stand out. I mean, we have a few of them here moving forward, but you're right. I mean, really the guys who do all the work in college basketball, for the most part, I mean, you should get a lot of production from your starters if you're going to be a good team. And that's what the Mean Green did. The other big thing that I want to mention is they had a bad matchup here, right? Travion Williams, the big man for Purdue, I think he was first team All Big Ten. I know he was All Big Ten on one of the teams. Dude's an absolute animal, and they, for much of the game, held him in check. You look at his final stat line, and it is a very respectable 14 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists. But, I mean, for a dude who probably could have beat up on this team a little bit with his size, because he's a very like thick big man. I really like his game. North Texas did a great job defending him and keeping him as not the guy who's going to beat you, right? Jaden Ivey, the freshman for Purdue, really impressed in this game. Kept him in it for a lot of it. He was really carrying them, 26 points. But it just wasn't enough. Once they forced overtime, Purdue didn't score in overtime until there was like 30 seconds to go. And obviously, if you're doing that, unless you're playing just excellent defense yourself, you're not going to win. It went from 61 at the end of regulation to North Texas being up 72-61 before Purdue was able to even do anything. And by that point, the game was well and truly over.
One stat that really stuck out to me, there's two, actually. North Texas was -9 in rebounding compared to Purdue. They did not rebound well. Another thing that North Texas did well, though, was they only had 5 turnovers all game compared to 11 that Purdue had. I thought those two really stick out, especially in college. I feel like those turnovers, like in all sports, turnovers really matter. But one thing I feel that emphasizes college basketball is turnovers. If you can handle the ball well, you typically win. So when you have 11 turnovers against a number 13 seed, who may or may not be good, may or may not get lucky that night, 11 turnovers is not going to do it. Wrap it in, One thing that also stuck out to me was Purdue only shot 36% from the field for the whole game, which from a higher ranked team, I guess I'm expecting too much. This is my first year really watching this, so I'm expecting a lot from these higher ranked teams. While North Texas shot 47%. So those are some key stats from the team wise. While we emphasize individual players like Ivy and Hamlet, this is a team sport, so.
Oh, absolutely. I think that was North Texas at the end of the day, they deserved to win that game, and I'm glad they did. Whether you pick with them or not, what I really like about March Madness is it gives the lower teams the opportunity to do great things. And that's kind of why, hint, hint, nudge, nudge, as Denver might say, I really hope that the college football playoff expands a little bit to, let some new faces in. You're not probably ever going to see many lower conference teams, but, this is fun, right? If you can get more of this in other sports, I think that's a great thing. But I suppose we move on to the next game, Texas Tech versus Utah State. Now, this was a tough game to watch in the first half. It was kind of a rock fight. Neither team was making a lot of shots, but especially Texas Tech in that regard. But the Red Raiders, as the higher-seeded team, as the team who the last time we had a tournament, they were in the national title game. Now, obviously, several faces have changed from that team. But you expect them to do big things under Chris Beard in March, and they did. They forced 22 turnovers from Utah State and scored 42 points in the second half for a team that's not really known for its scoring. It's known for its defense. I was really glad to see Texas Tech come out ahead in this one.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I'm just following your lead on that one. I didn't have notes on it. I forgot the game. There's so many games that I genuinely forgot that a lot of them happened.
Let's be real, folks.
I'm glad
48 games in 4 days is a lot of games. Unless you have supreme dedication, you're probably going to let a couple slip through the cracks. Now, I am going to humble brag here. I do believe I caught at least 8 minutes of every game all weekend. I was in absolute prime form.
Rackhead.
I was absolutely in prime form in terms of my March Madness watching ability. Come at me. I absolutely love this time of year. I've said it so many times in the last couple of weeks on the podcast. We're going to keep moving forward because it's it's fun. And so since Denver didn't have a ton to add on the Texas Tech game, but maybe, just maybe, he's going to talk to us about Arkansas taking on Colgate and surviving a little bit of a scare there.
Oh, man. Arkansas. I had Colgate winning, I think. I don't know if I did. I know I filled out a paper bracket at work, and I had Colgate somehow going to the Elite Eight, and I don't know why. Like, it's there at work, and I'm just like, they're going to do it. They're going to go all the way. Somehow they're going to make it to the Elite Eight. They're going to do it. And they didn't do it, so now I'm kind of sad, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think the thing here is Colgate really... And I think I said in the preview more or less, right, that in the bracket pick that we did, that this might be like the first game to 104. And while we didn't quite get there, this game was quite fast-paced. They just didn't make as many shots as either team normally does. And I think the final score was something I should have written all the final scores down. I just wrote the matchups in my notes. But it was like 85-68 or somewhere in that realm. Forgive me if I'm a couple points off. Justin Smith for Arkansas had a huge game. He nearly dropped a 30 bomb. 29 points, 13 rebounds, 5 steals. Fun fact for you, Denver. He's a former Indiana Hoosier who transferred to Arkansas. So this is kind of his homecoming. Maybe he was showing out a little bit because, as we'll get to here very shortly, he had a pretty good second game too. But this was really, in terms of how the games progressed in real time throughout the day, this was the first real scare of the tournament because this was the second game that tipped off. And there for a while, Colgate really stayed in it.
Yeah, I think when you told me the score, I remember now why I don't remember much, because when Arkansas starts to pull ahead, I'm like, okay, I got to go somewhere else to find like a closer game. That's usually what happens.
He's just zipping around.
Yep, pretty much.
And now we get to the game that was the first game of the tournament. And what a first game of the tournament it was. Incredible game. We're talking number 7, Florida, number 10, Virginia Tech. Crazy game. Went to overtime. Gators by 5. We had almost everything you could ask for in a March Madness game here. Denver, take it away while I pull up the highlights.
All right, so key things. Florida wins. Two players that I highlighted for this one was Castleton. He had 19 points, but 14 rebounds. That's
big.
A big game right there.
Big.
Another player that I really found interesting. I talked about bench play, and I don't see a lot of it, but Lewis came off the bench and had 15 points. Double-digit score off the bench. That's a huge bonus. Florida overall shot 57%, rounded and up. They were plus 13 on rebounds. Plus 13, that's a lot.
That'll do
but
it.
I know why I was so close now. And why I was so close, because they have 15 turnovers.
Yeah, that's a couple.
Again, when you start adding these turnovers up, it could play a huge factor. Florida, I think, deserved to win this game long term. Even though I think I picked Virginia Tech. Just watching the game, they played so much better. They really played a much better, much clean game. And I'll get to that here, because Virginia Tech had 24 team fouls.
Yeah.
That's a lot of
Virginia
fouls,
Tech, if I recall, Virginia Tech led the vast majority of this game, except, as you pointed out, I felt as though, it was very close, obviously, but Virginia Tech, it felt like they were getting outplayed and they were still ahead most of the game. I believe they held the lead until almost, it was like 5 minutes remaining when Florida really took the lead, and it looked like they were going to hold on to it. And then this happened. We're going to play this highlight before we continue talking. This was, again, great way to start the tournament. You want your games to end like this.
See when they give it. 5 seconds. They're not giving it. For the tie! Yes! Incredible! With 1.4 seconds.
We had a buzzer beater to send the game to OT in the first game of the tournament. Wow.
I recall watching that and going, "Oh my fucking Christ." That's exactly what I said. I was on the floor. Brittany's little sister thinks I'm like trying to play. But like I dead ass was shocked. I couldn't believe what I just saw.
And then overtime, still suspenseful. Very good ball game throughout. Florida kind of takes control in overtime and just kind of doesn't relinquish it. A couple of great highlights from overtime I'll let play real quick.
Too much to challenge.
From right away.
Lewis, bounce pass.
The monster jam.
Louisiana's.
And then I do believe the shot that clinches it from Trey Mann. He is the man.
Set the screen. Man with 7. Step back. Jumper. Yes, from 3. Big time.
And that is the call that from the game, or from the shot rather, that put Florida up 74-70 on their way to winning 75-70. Great game. And we were little did we know, but much did we hope that we were in for a lot more games like this. Because our next game...
I'm excited to talk about the next game.
The next game
Oral
is
Roberts.
almost just... It's just so remarkable. Really, at this point, if you followed any of the tournament, you know this is the Cinderella story so far. It's the 15th seeded Oral Roberts Golden Eagles, a team that I've got to see play many a time in the last several years as an alum of one of the schools in the Summit League with this team. They upset Ohio State, the second seeded Buckeyes, in the first round. Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner went crazy. I believe O'Banner had 30 points, 11 rebounds, and Asmus had 29 points. It was just absolutely insane. I think Ohio State even shot like way better than Oral Roberts in this game too. Out rebounded them by a ton, if I recall. But
Plus 14 on rebound.
yeah, but Oral Roberts, I believe, only committed 6 turnovers. But Ohio State
Correct.
had a ton.
Right? That's first note.
I think it was like
turnovers for Ohio State.
6 to 16. And that'll get you. You know, if a team is really good about not turning the ball over, that 15 turnover range is where if the other team's taking care of the ball and you're approaching 15 or you go past 15, you're in a lot of trouble no matter if that team is way better or way worse than you or not. And that's where Ohio State found themselves in trouble. I mean,
Yeah.
Oral Roberts was ahead most of the second half. It probably shouldn't even gone to overtime if we haven't said it already. Oral Roberts wins 75-72 in overtime. Spoiler alert. But honestly, it probably shouldn't even got that far.
Well, here's what's interesting to me. Is Ohio State, Liddell, had 23 points, 14 boards. Washington had 18 points, 10 rebounds, right? But here are two stats about shooting that always get to me. They shot 5 for 23 from the three-point line, which is only 21%. And they shot 9 for 18 on free throws.
Oh, that's tough. Free throw line will get you.
That is...
Free throw line will get you.
How? Like, okay, I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But how are you playing D1 basketball and you're shooting 50% from the line? Like, come on. Are you in... You know, when we shot 50% from the line, we were probably in middle school, okay?
And we were running a lot because of it.
We practice free throws. Exactly. Like, do they just not care about free throws anymore? If they would have made literally 4 more free throws, they would have won. They would have won.
It's
Hey,
very
you wanna take
likely
over
if they
here
could
for
have
a
been a
quick
little
second?
more efficient from the line. Yeah, they probably would have won.
Go for the goal.
Let me just preface this. I'm pretty sure in our bracket pick'em show, I told you this kid's a bucket.
Yeah, you did.
I'm
You
pretty
did.
sure I told you this kid's an absolute walking bucket. And he showed out, as well as Kevin O'Banner. We got Max Asmus, leading scorer in the country. Let's watch it.
Eagles against the taller, stronger Ohio State club, and I told you this guy
he's just wet. Just absolutely soaking wet. Oh. And then in overtime, not only is he wet, he's clutch and he's wet.
7 on the timer. Makes his move. Step back, Jay. Bullseye.
The net barely moved. It barely moved.
See, I have him Asmus in both games. He balled out, and so
absolutely.
did O'Banner.
O'Banner.
Is that how you pronounce? Yeah, he balled out too. Yo, Oral Roberts, they're going deep. Final Four.
They can score with anybody. I mean, if you got two guys putting up 30 a night, you can score with anybody. I think we already said it.
Stupid.
59 points between the two of them in this game, and then looking ahead, we'll talk about it then as well. But they had 53 in the second game against Florida. I mean, these dudes are just sitting. They're walking around in their Crocs. They're so wet, dude. Like, god damn. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, right, is OSU got absolutely smoked in the overtime. Like, they had a chance. They did well enough to bring it back. They took the lead late in regulation, let Oral Roberts tie it. Couldn't get the game winner in regulation. But, you really expect the more veteran team, which, I guess both of these teams are relatively young. So it's probably neutral there. But for sure, the higher major team, just based on talent, I guess, air quotes, should win in overtime, right? But I believe I have one more highlight. Yeah, it's this ending sequence from Ohio State. We have an off-balance 3 from, I can't remember number 10's name. I apologize. Arms. Tipped back out. He gets it to Dwayne Washington here. I mean, you're not going to get a much better look than that to win a ball game very often. And unfortunately, that was the story of overtime for Ohio State. Could not make a shot to save their lives.
Nope. It was unfortunate. I liked the upset though. Once it started going, man, I was cheering for Oral Roberts so hard. I was like, let's go, let's go, let's go. I was freaking out. It was a great game.
It was a great game. Congratulations to Oral Roberts. If we haven't said it formally already, like, we've been hyping him up here for the last several minutes. It's really cool to see a 15 seed go to the Sweet 16. It's even better when that Sweet 16 team, it has two dudes on it who just, I mean, once they're in the gym, you gotta make sure you're marking them, because otherwise they're gonna torch you. And with that, we move on to the second round of games within this region, starting at the top. We have Baylor taking on Wisconsin. And despite it was I guess the score wasn't a blowout, but Baylor was in control for the vast majority of this game, keeping that score, around a 10-point deficit for Wisconsin. And I mean, the biggest takeaway for me was the shots that the Badgers were hitting against Carolina, they weren't hitting against Baylor. And that was the biggest difference in the game. Baylor kind of just controlled it in the second half.
Baylor's my pick to win, so as long as they're winning, I'm okay.
He's happy, folks. I mean, like, he's all in on the Baylor hype train. Let me see.
Nah, I'm really all in Oral Roberts. I hope they win it all.
Well, that would be just nutty, right? But we'll see how that goes. If you hear me paging through my notebook, that would be something. Denver and I are both very proud. We both took, I'm not going to say extensive notes, but we both filled several pages in a notebook with notes. Like, we wanted to talk and cover these games as best as possible. even though obviously we're not the first to put out a podcast, and we're certainly not the experts, but we just loved watching these games, and we wanted to share the best we could. The other thing I wanted to highlight from that Baylor game, Baylor forced 14 turnovers and only had 4 themselves. So yet again, we see a team, and that's a Wisconsin team that I think, if I recall, Wisconsin turns the ball over less than any other team on average in the country.
Oh, that's impressive then.
And so, if you're winning the turnover battle by 10 against that Wisconsin team, you have a pretty good chance to win the game. Moving on, we had the not so upset-minded Villanova Wildcats against that North Texas team that took care of Purdue in round 1. And unfortunately, this game did not quite live up to either of these two teams' first game kind of hype. Nova just looked better. It was quite simple. They won by 23. Again, Javion Hamlet went absolutely off. I believe he had another 25 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists. So, I mean, that dude, much respect to that kid. He played hard. He had 25 of North Texas's 61 points. But it was just very, very balanced from Nova. They had 4 or 5 starters in double figures. And imagine this, the dude with the name, Jeremiah Robinson Earl, 18 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists. Another dude who, we talked about it a little bit in their game against Winthrop, seems like he's at least a minor threat to put up a triple-double every time he's walking out there right now, playing with a lot of confidence, and Nova advanced really, really easily. I don't know that we have to dive too deep into that one. But the next game was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And we kind of knew this looking at the bracket, definitely a possibility. Texas Tech, Arkansas. We have Chris Beard against the Muss Bus. And wow, this game definitely lived up to it. We have more highlights for this one a little bit here, so we'll throw those up for the video audience. Great little pass here. I loved this pass.
Oh, great find! What a pass! Threads it through right here. Well, it's Williams.
That's Justin Smith with the cut. We already talked about him, the former Hoosier. He had another big game in this one. I believe he had 20 to lead the Hogs in this one.
Did?
Yeah.
Wait, who did you say?
Justin Smith.
Yep, 20 and 6.
Yeah, and pretty decent, right? And the biggest thing to me was the last couple of minutes, very tense, very close game down the stretch. The only points in the last 2 minutes of this game was 1 Arkansas free throw.
Wow.
But Texas Tech had 2 very decent looks close to the rim late in the game. I will say, overall, I thought the officiating was pretty good all weekend. I'm not going to complain much, if at all. I do think, oh God, I don't remember if it was Kyler Edwards or Terrence Shannon. One of the two of them was the one that took the ball to the hole for Texas Tech with about 35 to 40 seconds left. I thought he got fouled, and they didn't call it, and he missed the layup. But I'll show this last little sequence here. I do not believe, or no, sorry, this is not the last sequence. This is funny.
Long shot, it's off the glass. He's only 28% and puts one in from distance. It's a 1 point with Edwards there. It's a 3. Bullseye! Another one off the glass.
We had a 28% three-point shooter banking a 3 at one end, and you come right down to the other end, and I believe, was it Moses Moody? I'm not 100% on that. I want to say it was Moses Moody. For Arkansas, puts in a freaking a back-to-back bank threes. It was awesome. And now we're getting here to the call on that last sequence I was talking about, where I don't believe this one was a foul. This was just unfortunate that Texas Tech couldn't find this bucket at the rim to send it to OT. We'll let it play out here.
6. He's dancing. Smith is there. Accelerates. No! Rebound, Note. That's it. Arkansas is going to the Sweet 16.
If I was seeing that right, guess who was playing defense on the play? Your boy Justin Smith. That kid's showing out. He wanted it. And as such, Arkansas, Sweet 16, I believe first time since the mid-90s. They're going to the Sweet 16. Right there. Does it? Oh, yeah. Should probably read the tweet. Unfortunate.
See, here's a couple things that I found interesting about this game. Was Arkansas had 4 starters in double figures.
Yep.
That's a big thing. One thing I found out though, just watching that, is they only made 4 3-pointers. They were 4 for 17, and one of them happened to be that wild bank shot. Overall, though, Texas Tech should have won. They shot 50% from the 3-point line, 10 for 20, but what kills them is they only shot 36% from the field.
Yeah, that's not going to win you many games. Even if you are as good a defensive team as Texas Tech, I think it's probably a credit to them that they kept it as close against a good team as Arkansas while only shooting 36% from the field. That's a good bit right there. That's why we got Denver on the podcast. He catches little things that I miss. There we go. The great duo right here, ladies and gentlemen. Denver, do you know who plays the next game we're talking about? I think you do.
I hope it's the Oral Roberts versus Florida.
We circle back very quickly here on the podcast. We have Oral Roberts, baby. And
their money.
If anyone thought that their win against Ohio State, a very good Ohio State team, in the first round was a fluke, they played another quality team here in Florida in the second round, and spoiler alert, they won again. And so they're the second ever 15 seed to make the Sweet 16. I knew that going in. That was the stakes for the game, even without the constant plug from the announcers, because I know the only other 15 seed. It was one of the first tournaments that I got really, really into. 2013 Florida Gulf Coast, Dunk City, baby. Loved that team. It's cool that Oral Roberts here can kind of follow in those footsteps. I liked that a lot. Again, Kevin O'Banner, another 28 points, another 11 rebounds. Max Asmus, 26 points, 7 assists. They did it again. They did it again. Well,
somehow they won, and they were negative 14 on the boards.
Oh, they got absolutely pounded in stats again in this game, I believe. Yeah.
But you know what? How they won?
20 turnovers from Florida.
Yep.
20 turnovers.
Was plus 8 on turnovers. That's mind-blowing. But I love this stat because I think it's Oral Roberts who's like the best free throw shooting team in the nation.
Yeah, it's them in Colorado.
They shot 19 for 23 from the free throw line, which is about 83%, which is awesome.
It's really good. That's right on their season average.
Yeah.
Very good team.
Those are key stats that help you win. I still can't believe they won when. How are you getting dominated on the boards like that and you still pull up upsets? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
It's because of what we're about to watch here. So just stay tuned.
Right now, you see the Gators with a little 1-2-2 pressure, but that really gets you out of whack and gives up a lot of threes. So they got to make sure they can stop the three and also the drive by Kevin O'Banner.
To the corner. Speaking of logo, A-Smiths. Nothing but net. Appleby for the last 13 minutes. Some of the other players had to play added minutes because of that.
I'm going to pause real quick because hearing the call makes me remember something. I believe the lady we're hearing on the call here is Lisa Byington. And I think I saw earlier in the week that she's the first ever female to call the play-by-play in NCAA tournament game. That's another thing I thought was awesome all weekend. I heard a lot of great calls, especially, I mean, she did great. I really thought she did several games. Obviously, I said I watched at least part of all of them. The ones I remember, this one sticks out, and oh God, I can't really think of it at the moment. I think I have a highlight of it later on. Maybe it'll refresh my memory. But either way, shout out to Lisa. She did a great job. Shout out to everybody. Loved everything. They were in prime form even though they didn't have it last year. That's what we love to see.
Finger roll finish there for Ace Miss.
What we're just watching is Oral Roberts, 2-star player, just dominating and scoring.
Yes. Sorry, I did not preface this. It's just a compilation of Max Asmus and Kevin O'Banner just getting absolute buckets against the Gators right here.
Gotta get your hand up.
He's got the mismatch, blows right by him. Oh boy, Asmus is such a tough cover. He's got that elite motor and athleticism. Kind of
from the logo again. He's wet.
His shooter, though. Asmus is just
like water.
He only had 5 turnovers. That was too much. He also emphasized defense will be key in the
If this was a Chris Smooth video, he'd have that green light everywhere.
He'd have that green release.
Yeah, that's what it was.
O'Banner's got the green release too.
0 for 2 from 3. And 0 for 3 everybody else. And taking the contact, a tough 2 for O'Banner.
Beautiful move.
Just stupid.
Asmus.
That shot, stupid.
19 for man.
For those who aren't able to join us to watch, you'll notice the score right here. Florida's up 11 with 10 minutes to go. And Oral Roberts claws their way back in this one and finds a way to win it late. I know we're not there on the scoreboard yet, but I want to shout out, for as much hype as we've given Asmus and O'Banner, the biggest shot of this game came from Deshang Weaver. He put one in from the corner to give Oral Roberts the lead late at 80 to 78, I think, and that proved to be the difference. Just watching this makes me not sick in a good way. Just
Their Sweet 16 ticket against Florida.
You gotta get up in him.
That's the way.
Both of them. You can't just let them do this to you. Both Ohio State and Florida let this happen.
Big yikes.
And because of it, Oral Roberts, Sweet 16, here we go.
Here we go.
And that does it for the recap of the South region. Right? South? Yes.